Emmy's roommate Lucy is a slovenly, food-stealing, clothing-destroying waste of carbon. Emmy dealt with it by keeping her space clean and ignoring her areas, storing her food at work, and installing a lock on her bedroom door so she couldn't borrow her outfits. All of that made Lucy a bad roommate, but she had her workarounds and she had the one saving grace of being quiet at night, so Emmy put up with it. She put up with it until she broke their cardinal roommate rule. No one gets a key to the apartment without both roommates agreeing. The rule was sacred. Emmy couldn't even give a key to her boyfriend for more than a year. And unbeknownst to her, Lucy had met a guy online who lived several hours away, and within 2 weeks of meeting him, she invites him to meet in real life and stay over for the weekend. Lucy then decides to mail this strange man a key to their apartment because he was going to get into town before she got off work. A man she talked to for only 2 weeks, had never actually met, and Emmy didn't know about, now had a key to their shared apartment, and Lucy wasn't going to be there to greet him. But Emmy was. She started doing her laundry while wearing only a robe as she was getting ready to shower right after. Suddenly, she hears the lock snick. Emmy turns around and sees the door swing open to reveal a thin-looking guy in a trench coat who just stood there silently, while Emmy froze like a rabbit. Emmy screamed and chucked the laundry detergent at his head before scrambling into her bedroom and locking the door. He yelled that it's okay, I'm Lucy's boyfriend, he said. I don't care who you are, Emmy screamed. Get out of here or I'm calling the cops and my boyfriend. The random strange man in a trench coat leaves and, to his credit, even locks the door behind him. Emmy calls Lucy and asks her if he's her boyfriend and if she gave him a key. She said he was, and she did. She then gushes about how they met, but Emmy got more and more irritated the longer she went on. Emmy calls her boyfriend and he comes over, helping her pack up the essentials so she can move in with him that day. There were no apologies or even excuses from Lucy when Emmy came back to the house to grab the rest of her stuff the following week. She yells at Emmy that it's her fault that she overreacted and said, "You're lucky my boyfriend didn't press charges for the mild concussion her laundry detergent gave him." Now Emmy is slow to show her true anger, but this was the last straw and Lucy needs to pay. So the 2-year lease is in her name only because Lucy's credit is so bad that nowhere in the good part of town would take her. She had been living with her parents over an hour away from her job for months before they started rooming together. Hindsight tells Emmy this is because no one else would room with her prior, so there's nothing legally preventing Emmy from subletting the apartment for the remaining 14 months on the lease. She could also evict Lucy, but that wouldn't be nearly as fun as what Emmy decided to do instead. She posted a roommate ad on Craigslist and made it quite the deal. She will keep her original deposit on file and pay the first 2 months' rent and sublet fee, on the condition that they know they're living with a food-thieving, clothing-destroying slob. Emmy may want revenge, but isn't willing to sucker some innocent person into it. Over the next couple weeks, she got a few nibbles, but no one had the flavor she was looking for to match Lucy. Then, Emmy gets a message from Kevin. Kevin goes down her list of warnings. He doesn't care about food thieving, he orders takeout and hates leftovers, and for obvious reasons, Kevin isn't worried about Lucy borrowing his clothes. And Kevin admits that he's a huge slob as well, and not having to pay attention to it is actually a plus. Kevin says the 2 months rent seems kind of excessive and there must be more to the story if Emmy was willing to pay that on top of the deposit and the sublet fee. So Emmy tells Kevin the rest of the story. He tells her he'll take the deal, but she should know something about him. Kevin says he is very happily active in the singles scene, not looking to settle down but very much looking to continue bringing home a revolving door of F-buddies. Sometimes they'll stay for a couple days or a week at a time, so it's good to know the key rule isn't really that big of a deal. Emmy tells him it sounds like he and Lucy will be a good roommate match. Kevin fills out the paperwork, the leasing office does his credit/background check and gives it the green light. And finally, Emmy then mails Kevin her key. Kevin moves in. Emmy gets a frantic call from Lucy about a strange man showing up saying he lives there with her now. She told her that's right, he does, and explains the subletting process. Lucy starts raging at her, but Emmy hangs up and mutes her calls. Over the next few days, she gets a lot of voicemails, some raging, some whining, some begging. Lucy has been forced to clean and take out the trash like a slave or something because Kevin doesn't bother. Lucy can't move out because she can't get a lease anywhere else and her parents won't let her move back home. Lucy has to keep paying her half of the rent because Kevin told her if she stopped, he would change the locks and move all her stuff out. And after a few weeks of radio silence, Lucy calls again and Emmy decides to pick up. She tells her she's so happy to get a hold of her. Kevin is now bringing men home every couple nights, and sometimes they don't leave for days and days. Emmy hears her out and calmly responds, "Yeah, having a roommate who hands out keys without your consent to guys you don't know is a bit, isn't it?"